Hi there, I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty, July 27th, 2013. And there's just the sense that things are changing. There's a lot of pressure on the side of the status quo and to uh, maintain and build the police state. And at the same time, there's just this feeling of a flow of new energy and release from oppression. So today we kind of want to look at both sides of that, and we'll start with the bad news and end with the good news. Anti-protest law passes nearly unanimously and is signed by the president. I was quite surprised by this week.
Yeah, this is remarkable. But one thing we need to keep in mind is that these guys, meaning Congress, that pass these laws and the president and all this stuff, they're operating in what many people are now considering to be a broken social contract. They do not have the support of the people. Their approval rating is less than 10%, Congress, like 9% or something. So this is all stuff that is really horrible and Orwellian and police state, but it is not something that is that people are approving of. So keep that in mind.
Well, this was within the Congress. HR 347 was signed by President Obama the other day, passed unanimously in the Senate, and 388 to 3 in the House. So out of the entire Congress, there were only 3 people that voted against this, and it's I believe that the bill states that you can't hold a protest when there is Secret Service personnel present. And the idea is that the concern is that they can just send a Secret Service person to any protest that they want to block, and this law will apply.
Yeah, as soon as you open the door to saying we national security takes precedence over everything, you've invited the serpent Leviathan into your bedroom. There's no stopping it. They can do whatever they want. So we have to get back. We as the American people have to get back to the point where we are saying, no, there are no conditions on liberty except for the harm or the threat of harm against somebody else. So, no, you cannot ever create a perfectly secure state. It is any attempt to do so is inherently a non anti-liberty position. So you've got to always err on the side of freedom and giving people too much autonomy.
And Infowars this week, a couple of days ago, actually had an article, and Alex mentioned it online, that snipers were authorized to pick off leaders at protests, and that I guess that's been ongoing for a while.
This sounds like such a blatant threat, and maybe they are serious. So after all, that is the kind of thing that was done to Martin Luther King, although he wasn't in a protest at the time. But that type of just take out the leaders of any resistance to the government by sniper fire, that is a police state gone wild.
When I heard that, what I thought about first was the scene in Dr. Zhivago, where the Bolshevik revolution is going on in the streets, and the Russian soldiers the armed Russian soldiers just ride horses right into the middle of the protest and basically just trample and kill the protesters. And when you have that kind of a visual, it's really shocking, even though we might not agree with the Bolsheviks. But just to see a government turn on its people that way when they're holding a peaceful protest, really kind of astonishing.
Yeah. Actually, we watched that movie probably a year ago now, and I hadn't seen it before, except from my childhood. And people haven't seen that movie. Highly recommended to actually get a feel for what the struggle is like and what life is like. Even though it's a love story and it doesn't focus on the revolution, there's these images of the revolution taking place in the background, and you can see how it changes everybody's lives. And when I say the revolution, I mean the how individual liberty gets trampled on, and that's the how the Russian Revolution of 1917 is the opposite of the American Revolution, which was the pro-liberty. The Russian thing was a pro-state revolution, very very different, and important to remember that difference. And those Dr. Zhivago images and the feel of that movie really can help with that.
There's a lot of history there too. There are those YouTube videos about the history of America that the Russian czars actually placed warships in American harbors to prevent Rothschild plans from overthrowing the American government. And then, having failed, the czars were targeted, and instead of just invading the United States, they decided to foment the Civil War.
Yeah, they have a long-term plan. There's huge spans of decades between those different events that Cindy just mentioned, and that's what we have to remember. We're dealing with people that have been in control of governments for centuries and have methods and ways to manage people that are tested and true. Right now, they're playing divide and conquer big time on the American public and trying to get us into this left versus right thing. And it seems real when you're in it, but when you are able to see out of it, you see how we're all being manipulated. So we just really encouraged everybody to begin to see out of it. And then you'll begin to see this new world that many people are seeing.
I made up a new abbreviation this week to deal with a good friend who always likes to use the VRWC, vast right wing conspiracy, just pulls that all the time. So now I'm calling it the VRLWC, the vast right left wing conspiracy.
Threw another letter in there. Yeah, exactly.
I threw the left in there too, just because it's, undeniably, it is not just a right wing conspiracy. It's a huge conspiracy, like you just said.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, there are people that associate police state with right, and there are people that associate police state with left. And if you do either one of those, you're buying into the fake paradigm, because the statist, it's really the real paradigm is liberty versus freedom, and the police state is the anti-freedom, and that's where both the left and the right are headed. For decades, people have been manipulated into thinking that they need bigger government so that their side can win. And what does that do but build up the state, which is used to subject all of us to a loss of our liberty?
And this was a very interesting blog by John Rappaport about the police state. And as he so often does, he brings humor to this subject and makes it a little bit more lighthearted. But evidently there is, they want to make it a felony to exceed authorized use of a computer, which means that if you are surfing on your work computer, or you do a little shopping on your lunch hour, and that's forbidden by the company you work for, congratulations, you have just committed a felony.
Right. Isn't this the very definition of a police state, where the arbitrary rules of an employer that they can use to discipline you at work actually become federal crimes against the state? So that is the full circle completed of a fascist government with tentacles into your everyday habits. So this is pretty scary stuff, and this is actually what the Department of Justice wants to do. But again, I want to emphasize That what we're doing today is looking at both the dark and the light. And this is something that Americans are really aghast at. You know, the whole Snowden and spying and the NSA scandal, which has conveniently taken a backstage on the news to all of the Zimmerman stuff. They're trying to corral us into that where they control what we think about again. That all that NSA spying stuff really lets you know how Americans detest that kind of behavior from their government. So don't think for a second that these guys have the support of the people when they are trying to, Department of Justice, set up such laws.
And this blog it's encouraging and fun to read. Basically, just emphasizes that a person is not a one-dimensional or even two-dimensional entity that can be understood by electronic scanning. We are, we're multifaceted. We are living. We change all the time. I mean, we might have believed something 2 weeks ago that we no longer believe. And so tracking us with computers is never going to really give a complete and accurate picture of who we are.
Yeah, John Rappaport is really brilliant that way. He's a very creative person. Now, I'll just give you one real illustration that he doesn't use in this blog, but he used in any blog that reaches back into his early experience. And he was asked to take a Rorschach test, and he just kept at it for hours and hours and hours, just because he wanted to show them that it's all the limits of the imagination are boundless, and so they finally just said, "Get out of here." So that's what that is what breaks the police state, is individuals expressing their individuality. We really are have so much of the divine in us that we cannot be controlled unless we give up that divine spark, and don't ever do it.
Well, I think that we have a compulsion to please, and to some extent that is probably wired into us by public education and just by the educational system. We're taught that there is a right answer, and we're taught that there is a right decision, and that kind of the reward for positive behavior, the positive reward for the behavior that's desired, I think creates adults, from the children who get that in school, who are very eager to give the right answer and present the right persona so that we will be liked, rewarded, whatever. And I think that compulsion causes us to have a desire to fit into these little pigeonholes that are being presented to us.
Yeah, humans can be herded, and that is what the elites have done throughout the centuries, is develop special techniques for herding humans. Sometimes you divide the herd, sometimes you get them turning away from something that is harmful to your agenda to focus their attention on something that is helpful to your agenda, such as the change from Snowden and NSA to Zimmerman. It's all part of the herding mentality, and the human tendency to think and move in groups is something that they continually use against us to be manipulated. So we always need to be aware of our own individuality so that we don't lose it and we don't lose our humanity.
And we are created in the image of God, and God wants us to behave as individuals. He's so pleased with diversity. There's never two leaves the same, never two snowflakes the same, certainly never two people the same. And if we need to fight for our individuality, I believe that is something that pleases God. And we're moving into some of the better news, more cheerful news. The World Global Settlement Funds.
I don't know if we've mentioned this here before, but there are some huge changes, and one of on the horizon in the banking world, and we've mentioned Basel III before, but in order to set up the new banking system, there are going to be some huge shifts, and one of those big ones is the World Global Settlement Funds, and this article talks about that. It talks about the huge movement into a new world where there are global settlements for those that have been wronged in the past, and there are groups of people around the world that have recognized the wrongs that have been done and have funds ready to begin to right those wrongs. So this really is happening. It really is on the horizon. This article talks about some of the details of that, but this what we're emphasizing is that this is the best of times, worst of times kind of thing, where the forces of tyranny are trying to scare the people into submission. Meanwhile, the forces of light and revelation and beauty and peace are operating, setting up a wonderful new world in the background if we don't succumb to the fear that the dark cabal and those forces are throwing at us. So this world global settlement is just on the horizon, and it will change the world.
And you mentioned us, and I do think that our attitude in refusing to be fearful, refusing to try to hunker down and just be in a safe little corner, it helps in bringing this about. I believe that because we are created in the image of God, our free will is a force that can be used to alter circumstances, to create both a better world, or if we choose to fear and hate and be angry, then of course those emotions go toward bringing about a world that's not quite as beautiful and revelatory and light.
Absolutely. This is the core of what I'm trying to get across, is that we need to maintain a positive attitude, but not an attitude of denial, an attitude that sees everything the way that it really is and then still chooses to focus on the inevitability of the victory of God, the good, and the light. And then that positive focus actually begins to set that up as the reality that we live in, because we are, with our divine spark, the creators, and we create that new reality by being in harmony with either the good or the bad. So, yeah, that is extremely important. And what a little tidbit here, one of the things that I heard Alex mention this week, and I listen to him almost every day, sometimes it's not possible, but one of the things that he mentioned was that how the reason the elites let him be on the air is they thought it was funny, and they thought that he scares most people, and that he encourages fear, and then that helps them. And I actually do know at least one person or two who do find Alex very scary, and they don't listen to him. So if you find something scary, yeah, don't listen to it. Don't increase that fear. And I think we instinctively know that fear isn't good, but you also don't want to be in denial either. I have never once felt afraid from listening to Alex. I really like the unabashed and real presentation of the truth, the stuff that I know is going on. It helps to clear the air, helps to get the stuff out there, it helps to put it up where people can see it, and then people can take action and, yeah, get angry, take whatever action you need to do against the bad stuff, not necessarily, and do it, but doing so in an asymmetrical way, in a way that doesn't play into their paradigm. They want you to get mad and react in a certain way that's their problem, reaction, solution type of control, and they think they can use Alex that way. I don't think they can. I think that they try to, but I think ultimately people wake up in a way that is suited to them and find the outlets that are best expressed for their personality. So we have people doing all kinds of different things once they begin to see the world the way that it really is.
Sometimes when I just hear those phrases used, I think about what Judge Smale said in Caddyshack. Danny, there's a lot of badness in the world. So we have this, what a beautiful graphic that is. I guess it's a moving GIF. It's really a nice graphic. The rebirth of the Republic and the rise of the Meek. It's a beautiful message to go along with the beautiful graphic.
Yeah, this is an article that Cindy mentioned yesterday in her 50-cent tour, and it's something that is definitely worth reading and highlighting here today. It's all the good things that are happening that are bringing about the new world and the restoration of the Republic that's happening behind the scenes. And just to put it in a nutshell, actually based on another article that I remember reading, is the basic idea that in order to have this new economic system, which has been maneuvered behind the scenes for decades, we need a way to deal with the funds in the United States of America. Currently, and for a limited remaining time, we have the Federal Reserve in control of the monetary policy and all of our currency, which is really a gigantic means of control. But in order to shift into something new, we need to shift back to something that is not a corporate fiction, but something that is real humans, and that's the republic that the founders of the United States of America gave to us, and that would be under the Treasury and responsive directly to the people in our republic form of government that is being restored. So these things go hand in hand, and we're excited about it. It really is happening behind the scenes. And yes, the bad guys are fighting and throwing up all kinds of roadblocks and doing whatever they can, but ultimately they're not going to be successful. We know who wins. And my particular view of the way the Bible teaches how we move through history is that we will be victorious. There will be difficult times, but the Lord is coming back for a victorious and overcoming bride, and not a slave. So currently, we're under a slave system, and in order to get to that time that is the culmination of all of history, the bride, that is those that are called by His name, and those that don't yet know Him but soon will, they are going to be overcoming the forces of tyranny. Yeah, there'll be a battle, but we're not going to be hunkering down and hiding. We're going to be fighting the battle in a victorious fashion, and that's what we're moving to. So again, kind of the best of times, worst of times kind of thing, but victorious in the end. And so we encourage you to have a victorious and overcoming attitude, because that will set us up for victory and not setbacks. There's never going to be any ultimate defeat. That isn't possible. Only setbacks, but victory is on the horizon.
That's good to know. And as a final little affirmation of that, we thought that we would present the tiny dot video. And this is not new, and you've probably seen this before, but it only takes a few minutes, and it's so encouraging. It's just such a great reminder of all these dots are us, and there's one little tiny dot that represents the government. So we are really, we are the people, and we have in this country government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So whatever the tiny dot does is meant to be guided by all of these dots.
Yeah, but right now we have a tiny dot that is telling the other dots what to do against their will, as we illustrated earlier. So that situation, this aggression will not stand, man. Yeah. So that's what the tiny dot is trying to teach us. Yeah, this is a stupid little blasphemous little horn, as the book of Revelation might put it. Yeah, he's going to be brought down. So that is the lesson here. You you have the power, and don't give your power up. The power resides in your individuality, but also in our collective desire that we all support one another in our individuality and not be assimilated into some kind of a Borg which is controlled by some little tiny dot.
Well, that is interesting that you bring that up. As things get reshuffled and reorganized, I believe, and we both actually have kind of seen some evidence of this, that that different people are going to want to be building their kingdoms. They are going to want to be becoming the tiny dot that has some other dots gathered around them. Maybe not this many, but some dots. And a really great movie that can help us all remember to be cautious about gravitating towards some new tiny dot is the film The Land of the Blind. We don't want to just replace what we now have with some other form of oligarchy or dictatorship because we're used to being led. We want to learn how to steward our God-given liberty.
Yeah, as a guiding principle for that, always think decentralization, and hierarchies are bad, and decentralization is good. So that the control is as local and as minimal as possible. Ultimately, really, it's the family and the individuals within that family that have the most power as God designed it. And a true republic form of government doesn't ever give up that power. It just has representatives from that system to facilitate the coordination and the communication, but never really gives up its autonomy. And a true republic does that.
We do thank you for joining with us for this week's Pearls of Liberty, and we hope that you have a great week coming up.
And as always, we encourage you to see the world the way that it really is, to see yourself in it, to walk your walk. You are the one you've been waiting for.